Hello, Earthlings. How you doing? Welcome to First Contact Radio. I hope you are doing well today. Let's jump into our cosmic weather. All right, here we go. Starting off with our space weather, we are at 351.3 kilometers per second for the wind today, solar wind. That brings our KP index to only about a 1 and expected to be no more than that within the next 24 hours. Our solar forecast, very, very low. Geomagnetic storms are going to be very low. And of course, anything as far as a solar flare is going to be very low, non-existent as well. Tells us about our comet Lovejoy. Remember the comet that dove into the sun. It says Comet Lovejoy in the morning. Noted astronomer John Bortle urges astronomers, especially in the southern hemisphere, to begin searching for Comet Lovejoy's bright tail, projecting up and out of the morning twilight beginning at dawn. The tails of some of the major sun-grazing comets have been extraordinarily bright. Comet Lovejoy's apparition has been so bizarre up to this point that it is truly difficult to anticipate what just might happen next, including the exact sort of tail that might unfurl in the morning sky. So if you're looking out, you might see something quite interesting. If you're taking pictures, if so, send them on in. Let us know what you captured if you happen to take any. Astrologically, we are still in the sign of Sagittarius, only for a few more days before we move on over. And let's take a look at where our moon sign is. Our moon sign here, as you can see right here on the 19th, is in the sign of Libra. Libra are the scales of balance, about karmic balance. What we put out, we get back. That's sort of the energy that Libra is dealing with. It's a nice balancing energy because we learn to understand the responsibilities for when we put something out, what's going to come back to us. So we combine that as our subconscious thinking with our conscious thoughts, Sagittarian related, which are about expansion of energies and the ability to kind of, philosophize those kind of things. And moving from there, our moon is almost, it's almost halfway now, or more than halfway between the full moon and the new moon. We're at 32% full, so it's dropped quite a bit. And last but not least, our dream spell information. Right here, today's a yellow solar day, solar sun guided by the warrior. The phrase for today is I pulse in order to enlighten, realizing life. I seal the matrix of universal fire with the solar tone of intention. I am guided by the power of intelligence. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Monday, December 19th, 2011. Now, all of this information together, the idea is just to kind of mix it up in a big soup and just see how you can understand the energies of the day. You just because everything around us is energy. And our objective is to learn how to work with these energies better and better. So when we understand the energies that are out in life all around us, it helps us to understand how we can work with those energies. We start to learn a little bit more about them. So with the expansion of Sagittarius, with the karmic minded thought of Libra, and then we've got the dream spell telling us about the ripening and the intentions of the energies we put out. We combine all those together and it kind of gives us a guide of where we're going for the day, how to use the energy. It's no different than looking in the newspaper to see what the weather report is before you're going to go out for today. If you're going to wear a raincoat or if you need a short sleeve shirt or a long jacket because it's cold. That's basically it. It's no more than that. No more nor less. A lot of people read really in depth to astrology and to all of these sciences. You can read really in depth, but the bottom line, it's a weather report. It's an energy report. That's what it is. All right. Now let's move on to our first story of the morning. And this is going to get started here with the National Defense Authorization Act, which was passed. Yes, my friends, the National Defense Authorization Act was passed. Obama signed it into law. It's not really a good thing for any American. Really, I know it really hasn't made much of the news, but here we're going to talk about it because we've been referring to it on this show quite a bit, and this is no different. So I'm going to play this to get us started. And then when we come back at the second part of the hour, we're going to continue on with our interview with Stephen Bassett. So check this out. I'll be right back in just a bit with UFO News. Stay tuned.
Big government Republicans and Democrats were busy shredding the last vestiges of the Constitution. They're talking about inserting the Army into domestic law enforcement. Senator Lindsey Graham, who supports this bill, says, quote, "The homeland is part of the battlefield, and people can be held without trial, whether an American citizen or not."
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The original Constitution, I think it is an imperfect document, and I think it is a document that reflects some deep flaws in American culture, the colonial culture nascent at that time. I think we can say that the Constitution reflected an enormous blind spot in this culture, and that the framers had that same blind spot. It also reflected the fundamental flaw of this country that continues to this day.
Well, most people are busy. The last of the constitutional lawyers are stripping away.
Bill allowing the American military to imprison American citizens indefinitely without charge or trial.
Congress is essentially authorizing the indefinite imprisonment of American citizens without charge or trial.
I think that denigrates the very foundation of this country. It denigrates the Bill of Rights. It denigrates what our founders intended.
How bad is this?
It's quite frankly absurd, Keith. I mean, here we are 10 years after 9/11, in the wake of the demise of Osama bin Laden, the only leader that Al-Qaeda has ever known. And we're passing a provision that would codify the indefinite detention without trial of suspected enemies of the state. And that includes, as you mentioned, American citizens apprehended here on U.S. soil. We have not codified indefinite detention without trial since the McCarthy era. That's how extreme this is. And the most amazing thing is that it's not necessary.
Charles Dyer. I'm an oath keeper. I'm the 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion out of Camp Pendleton, California. I absolutely could not, I can't imagine that we're living in the times where I have to worry about having to confiscate the weapons from the American people. Is that freedom? It's absolutely not freedom. That I have to worry that we're going to quarantine a city for the purposes of keeping them in their hostage, like Katrina? Absolutely not. That's not freedom in any way that you can think of it. I'm almost speechless whenever I try to talk about this because I can't imagine that we're living in this kind of time. It really bothers me. Absolutely.
I saw a tremendous pattern of the growth of the infrastructure of a totalitarian state in the last 8 years post 9/11. I mean, it's been going on for decades. We've seen for decades encroachments on our liberties, and then a crisis would come along, and then all of a sudden they had a chance to get their policies passed that they've been wanting to pass for a long time.
Painted picture of what is happening in this country, let's recognize how history repeats itself. In February 1933, Hitler staged a false flag attack, burning down his own German parliament building, the Reichstag, and blamed it on communist terrorists. In the next few weeks, he passed the Enabling Act, which completely eradicated the German Constitution, destroying people's liberties. He then led a series of preemptive wars, all justified to the German people as necessary to maintaining homeland security.
An evil exists that threatens every man, woman, and child of this great nation. We must take steps to ensure our domestic security and protect our homeland. Sounds like George Bush, right? Guess what? Adolf Hitler.
Our enemy is a radical network of terrorists and every government that supports them.
It's time to wake up.
If you think you have been a terrorist or doing anything wrong to be directly impacted by this, think again.
Imagine if your family was awakened in the middle of the night by a team of federal officers. Well, that's exactly what happened to a woman and her children in Granville County.
Amanda Lamb is in the newsroom joining us now. And Amanda, we understand that because this case falls under the Patriot Act, a lot of the usual rights for defendants not available here.
Her son was taken into federal custody 2 months ago. She can't get him out, and she can't get any answers. 16-year-old Ashton Lundeby's bedroom is nothing if not patriotic. American flags everywhere. But according to the United States government, this 10th grader, who has never been in trouble with the law before, is now a suspected terrorist.
My topic for this evening is assassinations. What have we allowed ourselves to become? Are we no longer a nation of laws? Have we become instead a nation of men who make secret arrests? Are secret prisons now simply another tool of the federal government law enforcement? Is secret rendition of individuals now permitted out of misplaced fear? Have we decided that the writ of habeas corpus is not worth defending? Is torture now an acceptable tool for making us safe? Unfortunately, the single answer to all of these questions from the leaders of our country and to many of our citizens appears to be yes. And now we are told that assassination of foreigners as well as American citizens is legitimate and necessary to provide security for our people. It is my firm opinion that nothing could be further from the truth. Secret arrests, secret renditions, torture, and assassinations are illegal under both domestic and international law. These activities should be anathema to the citizens of a constitutional republic. The real threat doesn't arise from our failure to torture, rather desensitizing our nation to the willful neglect and sacrifice of our civil liberties fought and died for over the centuries is the threat. The concept of habeas corpus existed even before King John of England was forced in 1215 by his rebellious barons to sign the Magna Carta. This basic principle and expression of individual liberty, which has survived 800 years, greatly influenced the writing of our Constitution and our common law heritage. Today, we hardly hear a whimper, either from the American people or a stone silent U.S. government as our cherished liberties are eradicated. Instead, we have a government that deliberately orchestrates needless fear and makes people insecure enough to ignore the reality of their lost liberties. It should not be that difficult to distinguish the difference between the danger posed by the underwear bomber and the danger posed by a government that endorses secret prisons, torture, and assassinating American citizens.
Since the 2003 war in Iraq, over 1.2 million Iraqis were killed, most of whom were innocent civilians. Today, most of Iraq is uninhabitable, and America itself is a state of which not seen since the Great Depression and on the path of a complete collapse. It is time for all those who made a promise or swore to defend the people and Constitution to rise up to your responsibility, to your oath to defend against enemies, foreign and domestic.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. Let us jump right in. Our first one comes to us from Tokyo. This is a story from Tracy Pierce over at Examiner.com. On Tuesday, December 13, 2011, passengers in a moving car on one of Tokyo, Japan's busy streets were surprised by the sight of a UFO shining brightly as it moved diagonally across the dark sky over the city. One of the passengers of the vehicle was able to record the unidentified flying object on video. The UFO sighting took place at 5:50 p.m. UFO Global Reporting Center referred to the unidentified flying object as a white ball flying across the sky. The video shows slow-moving traffic on a busy two-lane road beneath the starless sky. Suddenly, a white light appears to the upper right center of the scene. That white light seems to move downward and to the camera's right before disappearing from sight behind a building in the distance. Several people who have seen the video have put forth the opinion that this unidentified flying object was actually nothing more than a meteor. There is reportedly at least one other video showing the object from another angle. Let's take this look right here. See what we shall see. Okay, here we go. Alright, as we can see here. Alright, this is from the UFO Global Reporting Center. December 13th, white ball flying across the sky, Tokyo, Japan. Alright, we're going to see it from the middle going to the right here momentarily. Okay, coming on up, folks. Here we go. There it is. And there it goes. So I want you to check that out. The link will be up on our page. You can see for yourself. Our next story comes to us from HuffingtonPost.co.uk. Alien and UFO sightings in Somerset reported in record numbers. Record numbers of aliens and UFO sightings have been reported in the mystical county of Somerset after a Freedom of Information request by Somerset Gazette showed 27 calls have been made in the past 5 years. Calls such as one made on the 23rd of August 2011. Caller is stuck in a hospital with aliens and Charlie Cray have a hoax quality about them, but other reports have undoubtedly been made in good faith. Somerset has a history of otherworldly activity with witchy Walkie Hole and prehistoric Cheddar George prompting extraterrestrial speculation. However, the calls made to the police concerning UFO sightings in Somerset show a more in-depth portrait. Genuine UFO sightings have been wielded from what police describe as calls for help. During August 2009, calls recorded by a police show a series of disturbing reports. 16 August, caller advised they were a recognized Son of God on this earth and alien planets. September 17, 2009, caller advised they have the powers to rule the world and govern religion and aliens. And more, Imagine report on April 5, 2011, caller reporting UFOs in the front room. Their dog has drawn pictures on the window and saints are looking through the window. Very interesting story indeed about what's going on out there. Take it for what it will. For what you will, excuse me. Alright. Triangular formation over Altia Republic, Russia, December 11th. These glowing lights were seen and recorded in the night sky above Altia Republic in South Russia on the 11th. Let's look and see what these are. Alright. Looks like we got the nighttime sky here. There we go. We got 2. Now we got 3. Definitely a triangle formation going on up there. All seems to be moving together. Very interesting indeed. And our last story, UFO story for today, comes to us from the Canadian. Agrocosmopolitan.com. Holographic UFO sightings, extraterrestrials as the future scapegoat. Now that Osama bin Laden has supposedly been captured, a global military-industrial complex apparently seeks a new scapegoat. Dr. Stephen Greer is the director of Disclosure Project. a nonprofit research project working to fully disclose the facts about UFOs, extraterrestrial intelligence, and classified advanced energy and propulsion systems. In a June 2002 article, he warned of how a phony UFO invasion would be presented to the public so they would willingly sacrifice their liberty and rally around the government in opposition to the nefarious ETs. Greer describes the ultimate trump card, a hoax threat from space. Since 1992, I have seen this script unveiled to me by at least a dozen well-placed insiders. Of course, initially I laughed, thinking this is just disclosure project before 9/11, and yet others told me explicitly that these things that look like UFOs, but they are built and under the control of earthbound interests which are being used to simulate hoax ET appearing events, including some abductions and cattle mutilations, to sow the early seeds of cultural fear regarding life in outer space. Like the movie Independence Day, an attempt to reunite the world through militarism would unfold using ET as the new cosmic scapegoat. Think Jews during the Reichstag. Do not be deceived by commingling this fact with fiction or by hoaxing UFO events that can look terrifying. The plan is to eventually create a new sustainable off-planet enemy, and who will be the wiser? Okay, this was from Paul Joseph Watson, was from this article. So there you have it. There's our UFO news for today. Very important to keep informed with what's going on. I'm going to jump away for a moment to our song Wake Up. When I get back, we're going to continue on with more news, information, and of course the second part of the interview with Stephen Bassett. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth. People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Government should be afraid. 9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if by land and two if by sea? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So, where are we going to go from here? Well, we're going to continue talking about the National Defense Authorization Act for a moment. All right, our first story comes to us here. Well, let's get the right one. 14 U.S. governors, state governors, prepare state militia defenses to counter Obama's rogue federal forces. Obama, fearing a revolution against him by the states, has moved swiftly by nationalizing nearly all of the National Guard forces in multiple states. Georgia, Alabama, Kansas, Minnesota, Tennessee, Virginia, Louisiana, South Carolina, to name a few. The governors of the great states of Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia still have under their command and control the state defense forces to go against U.S. federal forces should the need arise. Also important to note, there are no U.S. laws prohibiting National Guard troops from also joining their state's defense forces. This dilemma occurred during the Civil War, with many citizen soldiers choosing to serve their states instead of the federal government. Obama is angered by the several states' governors who reestablished state defense forces. These forces are described as state defense forces, also known as state guards, state military reserves, state militias. In the United States, they are military units that operate under the sole authority of state government. They are not regulated by the National Guard Bureau, nor are they part of the Army National Guard of the United States. State defense forces are authorized by state and federal law and are under the command of the governor of each state. Each state defense forces are distinct from their state's National Guard in that they cannot become federal entities. All right, there's more to this article. You're going to have to go read this for yourself, but obviously this is a very important issue. Now, I've gotten a number of emails about this particular issue, so let me address this. I got an email from John, and John was inquiring about whether or not this activity which was taking place might be a step closer to martial law. He said that he has a feeling that this is where it's going, and I think you're right, John. I've heard this from a number of other credible sources as well, who seem to feel the same thing, that Obama is taking steps so that he would suspend the next election and that way keep himself in power. Is that absolutely the truth? I don't know. But it is a talk that is going on out there, and so you and others certainly have picked up on that talk, and now we're seeing an article here about state governors preparing. So something is going on. We have a president in office who thinks there are 57 states in this country. We have a president whose parents weren't born in this country, and we have a president who is using a Social Security number that doesn't belong to him. These are just a few of the fraudulent things that this man is doing. The same man is the one who was saying the Constitution of the United States is an inaccurate or incomplete document, that there are problems and holes in it, that the Founding Fathers had problems and holes. We're going to listen to this idiot in office who doesn't have the best interest of the American public in mind? Really? The guy who thinks the Constitution is a problem but also thinks there are 57 states. Got a big problem here, folks. Obama's getting out of control, and yes, it does seem like he is moving forward towards some sort of political or military maneuver to keep him in a political position. I think that if this starts to happen, I'm pretty darn certain that the military of this United States does not buy into 100% what Obama has to say and or is willing to do. I think that we might have some sort of military coup in the works, especially if we already see that state governments are already starting to prepare what they're going to do for that. Now, next story here, check this one out. New poll, Ron Paul leads in Iowa, Gingrich is imploding. Paul, 23%, Romney, 20%, Gingrich, 14%. This is at InfoWars, Paul Joseph Watson. A new survey conducted by Public Policy Polling shows that Ron Paul now leads in Iowa just 2 weeks ahead of the crucial Republican primary, while Newt Gingrich's campaign is in free fall. Newt Gingrich's campaign is rapidly imploding, and Ron Paul has now taken the lead in Iowa. He's at 23% to 20% for Mitt Romney, 14% for Gingrich, 10% for Rick Santorum, Bachmann, Rick Perry, and 4% for John Huntsman, and 2% for Gary Johnson. Support for Gingrich has dropped from 27 to 14% in just 2 weeks. The figures illustrate how Gingrich is likely to fade into the distance before the crucial primary takes place on January 3rd. The numbers also show that Paul's fiercest rival is clearly Romney, meaning all energy should be directed to pointing out that, like Gingrich, Romney is a big government rhino Republican who supported a system almost identical to Obamacare. Paul's supporters describe themselves as more solidly committed than Romney, at 73% to 68%. His aggressive work in Iowa, that's Ron Paul, has impressed voters, with 22% believing he's run the best campaign in the state, compared to just 8% for Gingrich and 5% for Romney. More to the article there, but it's just good news to see that Ron Paul is doing well and people are wising up. And the more that these battles go on, the more that people realize Ron Paul's telling the truth. Because the things he's been warning about are not some things that are in the far distance from happening. These are things happening right now. They're gathering the military forces right now. They're putting laws in place so that martial law can be, declared for this country. They're putting this in place right now. All of these things Ron Paul has been talking about. Now we've got the FEMA camps which are out there, which are being, they're starting to look for people to work in those. We've got confirmations of such reports, and it's kind of getting to be a time that we all need to pay attention. I know there's a lot of Americans who don't understand about this National Defense Authorization Act. I wanted to find out for myself. So I made a few phone calls on Friday. I called the two police departments here in Los Angeles, a local one and then the downtown one. The local one had no idea about the National Defense Authorization Act. They were absolutely clueless. But when I did call the downtown police department, the gentleman I spoke with on the phone, the officer, was very well informed about it, thought it was a horrible law that was passed, was very concerned about how it was going to play itself out, but it was good to know that he was aware of it. So I'm sure that if he's aware of it, other police departments are more than aware of what is going on. And the unfortunate thing is the police are going to be caught in the middle. This is what I've been talking about for a while. This is what others have been talking about for a while. And now they're starting to see. Because if the power is taken away from them and given to the military, where does the police stand? Nowhere. Their power is being stripped from them. So they better find out real quick which side they're on. And it better be on the side of the people, because pretty soon they're literally going to be standing on the side with the people. Now, one more story before we get into our interview. Now, let me pull this up here. This one is one of those stories that you just want to shake your head at when you hear it, because you've all heard over and over and over about the kids, young kids, and the people that are getting arrested for downloading torrents and these kind of things. And one of the big complainers has been the RIAA, Record Industry of America. Well, here we go. This is right from Torrent Freak. RIAA and Homeland Security caught downloading torrents. If there's one organization known for its crusade against online piracy, it's the RIAA. Nevertheless, in the RIAA's headquarters, several people use BitTorrent to download pirate movies, music, TV shows, and software, and they are in good company. The Department of Homeland Security, known for seizing pirate domain names, also harbors hundreds of BitPirate torrents. Well, you can go on and read this article because we want to get on to other news. But this just goes to show the hypocritical nature of the organizations. RIAA and Homeland Security are clamping down on people who are downloading, yet in their very own organizations, they are doing the same thing. Perhaps they should clamp down on the people in their organizations, and maybe in their organizations first and foremost, rather than pointing the finger elsewhere. Because if they've got people doing these sort of activities in their own offices, apparently they've got leaks and holes in their offices, and that's where the problem lies, and they should quit pointing fingers and fix the problem. All right. Enough said of that. Now, let us bring our attention back over to the interview we were talking about. I was speaking last week I did an interview last week with Stephen Bassett, and we were talking about the Disclosure Initiative, the second one, the Rockefeller Initiative. And I'm going to continue on with this interview today, so I'm going to shut up now, and let's go. Let's see if I can find where it is, first of all. Alright, hold on one second here. Let me bring things in. Okay, here we go. This should get us there, right?
I think it's very important, and it's ludicrous that they make the comments that they make in light of the information that's out there about the presidents who have seen things, deciding over the White House in the 50s. I mean, on and on. It's just ludicrous.
Well, of course, being ludicrous is hardly new
right.
for government in these times. So in that way, they're being consistent.
They are indeed.
But what can I say? They have made a strategic error here, maybe even deliberately so. One never knows, by putting that position down on paper. So now they have, at some point, they're going to have to defend it. At some point, certain media are going to look at that statement and compare it against the evidence that's out there that, in many cases they actually do know about, even though they really don't investigate or take the issue where it needs to go. And they're going to become a little bit, I would just say, nonplussed about it. There's a limit. They may feel, look, this is now getting ridiculous. And we're not comfortable with going along with this any longer. The White House might have put out a much more nuanced position that would have left a little latitude, cover their tuchus as it is. But they didn't do that. They essentially said, no, 60 years of citizen science work, all of the evidence, the photographs, the video, the radar logs, the thousands of pilot sightings, the witnesses coming forward, astronauts coming forward, trace cases, crop circles, cattle mutilations, all of this stuff. No evidence at all there. There's no evidence at all for non-human intelligence, which means it must be explained some other way. Of course, it hasn't been, but that's just an extraordinary action on their part. But it's exactly what I would ideally would have liked. I mean, other than disclosure itself, that was the second best.
Right.
Was to take that hard a line. They've done it. So, if I'm them, and I realize I've made a mistake like that, then I would be trying to backtrack. I would be trying to try to work out of this problem. And one way to do it would be to jack the signature total way up so very few signatures can get through anymore. And then another way would be to simply make the site just very difficult so that people just don't want to bother with it. And so essentially they're able to maybe work through this and it'll fade away. That's what I would do if I were them, in a sense. I mean, just knowing what I know about the truth embargo and government mentality. It's a mistake. It's very obvious. And it's going to probably blow up in their face. And it's not going to work. They have now put themselves in writing as to what their position is. Now they have to defend it. And there's only 5 ways, I believe, that it can be defended. And it's a political lie. Yes, we know plenty of things, some of our science and military and intelligence advisors, but we cannot acknowledge that we know anything. And we have to take a hard line for political reasons because we don't want to damage the president's prospects in the next election. It's a national security lie. Yes, we know a great deal. Yes, we know it's true. But for national security reasons, we simply still cannot acknowledge that anything is true. We have to pretend it's not there. Third possibility is that they just don't know anything at all. That somehow or another, all of the executive branch staff, including the military intelligence and science advisors, somehow managed to completely miss the entire 60-year phenomena. The books, the thousands of books, the hundreds of documentaries on History Channel and A&E and the Learning Channel and the Science Channel, and now even on National Geographic managed them, is all of that. And just unaware there's a phenomenon going on. What UFOs? That's a possibility.
And that's hard to believe that could even, I mean, some of these stations that they put out they're behind the stations. You know, they're Washington organizations that are putting out some of these channels and these shows.
Sure. So the fourth possibility is that, in fact, their position is correct. There's only 4. I said 5. It's 4. Okay. Meaning that, in fact, there is no evidence. This entire 60-year extraordinary history is nothing but a global misunderstanding. And there's nothing here. There's no ETs, there's no phenomena of note, there's no craft, there's no unusual technology, nothing. It simply doesn't exist. These are the only 4 bases on which they can defend that position, and any reasonable person would see instantly that all 4 bases cannot stand.
Mm-mm.
And so, should they be challenged
Absolutely.
on that initial statement by the press, by any 1 or 2 significant media centers who are going to commit? They're in deep trouble, and the truth embargo might not survive 30 days.
No, they definitely need to be challenged because the lies seem like they're coming, no pun intended, but fast and furious in all different branches. And it's, people, I kind of hope that people are waking up more and more and are seeing all the lies.
Well, they are. There's no question that the mendacity of government has become increasingly obvious. That's why you're seeing so much dissatisfaction, distrust in government, approval rating so low. I think Congress recently hit 9%.
Mm-hmm. Very low.
The media went out there to try to find some comparisons, sort of compare it to other things that had less than 9% approval rating, and they couldn't find anything. Believe it or not, they just couldn't. I mean, there's a lot of nasty things going on, but even those things had approval ratings better than the Congress at 9. So the people are aware increasingly that government is out of the truth business and is into the clandestine business, the don't ask, don't tell business. You don't have a need to know business. All of this, they know this. They're still processing it. They're angry, and in some cases, they've gone to the streets, particularly over the enormous financial frauds and financial misbehavior of major financial entities who literally went off the scale in terms of greed, arrogance, disdain. And that's a good sign, but there's a long way to go. The people are going to have to get angry about a lot more than just that. But as I've said many times, this is a truth movement. It's also a freedom movement. Lies are like shackles. They bind you. They limit you. And furthermore, there is evidence that enormous work has been done trying to understand the technology of these craft, because a number of them have come into the hands of the U.S. government and been studied with unlimited budgets for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not uncommon to hear, certainly in the past and even today, some scientist or bureaucrat in government or perhaps in a defense contractor talk about how, well, whatever you think we have, we're 50 years ahead of that. We have much better technology than that in the secret world. Meanwhile, we're facing environmental problems, massive economic issues. We've got huge gaps between the rich and the poor. We've got undeveloped countries that are just going to be spawning terrorism for decades because they're unable to deal with the demands of growing populations, resources. And so this idea that the hidden world has got all this technology is 40, 50, 60 years ahead of us, I'm thinking, gee, we could kind of use that.
Yeah, it would be helpful.
Right? I mean, they're awful proud of themselves, but what about the rest of the human race?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand there are national security issues. I'm not talking about some super secret guided this or that. But we're not just talking about that. We are also talking about the energy system and the propulsion system of those 50-foot flying silver discs that pilots have seen on many occasions. And they're not using oil and gas.
Nope.
And they're not flying aerodynamically. And that's all you need to know that this potentially has profound technology breakthroughs. And it's hidden. And the government has also gone about doing other things. They scoop up patents under public domain or national security so that inventors may come up with possible breakthroughs in gas mileage, alternative energy sources, and these patents are just scooped up and taken and never seen again. This is also a form of technology suppression. Meanwhile, we are supposed to just fend for ourselves. If gas goes to $6, $7 a barrel, a gallon, well, that's tough. So what's at stake here is actually much bigger than I think most people can really understand. And I understand that. I understand how difficult it is. This is a very complicated issue, and it is unprecedented. There's no rule books on this one. Mm-hmm. The advocacy movement operates like most advocacy movements, with tiny little bits of money, but the issue and the phenomenon itself is certainly unprecedented. And so I understand that people are having trouble getting it. They're having trouble understanding how important it is, and that's why they're not pressing their their congressional representatives enough, the media enough, why they're not providing funding for the advocacy work. In time, however, I think they will get it. I think every year more people do get it. Mm-hmm. And so a critical mass will be achieved at some point. Until then, we press on with more petitions, with more projects, more books, more media interviews, and whatever it takes to keep raising public awareness. And I'm hopefully going to have a column in Huffington Post soon. We've submitted. I think it's under discussion. It would be nice if that two already out, done, or ready to go. We're also going to change the dialogue. It's time to stop talking about UFOs and start talking about non-human intelligent craft, guided craft. It's time to put the old language behind and start using a language that's appropriate, our language, not the government's language, not the language of truth embargo.
Right.
So we're going to see more of that.
Excellent.
And we're going to see more contactee evidence developing. We may see some well-known people coming forward with their own personal stories. We may see some of that. That's going to be interesting. But this thing cannot be contained much longer.
Nope.
And it simply cannot be contained without draconian changes in our governmental structure in the United States. It's just not
right.
hold up.
It's going to be curious to see how it does unfold because so many people have that idea of 2012 in their mind, and that in itself might be enough to open up consciousness to explore the other possibility.
It is a sensitized year without question. Mm-hmm. People have invested a lot of expectations in it for change, transition, transformation. Understandable. Mm-hmm. Certainly the disclosure event would be all of those things. So we may have a little bit more, how would you say, emotional engagement by the general population next year in this. That would be good.
That would be great. It's curious. Absolutely. It's interesting to see how, too, this NDAA bill is going to play into everything, the National Defense Authorization Act, and if that's somehow related to suppressing more and more information. And
I don't think it'll pass, but I think if it passes, I think Obama will veto it. But it's interesting that they ran it by the viewing stand.
Right.
Boy, so many possibilities here. Something just happened recently I noted with considerable interest. SETI mm-hmm. was created in the very late 50s. There were various programs doing things like searching for ET intelligence, but the formalization of it comes at the end of the 50s. NASA was behind it. NASA was providing the initial money.
Okay.
And it was a propaganda program from day one. And the government, elements within the government, military intelligence, and probably certainly some people working for NASA in the early days knew that the ET presence was real. So they had to create this entity and support this entity with their money until the Congress finally yanked the budget. The search for signals. It was all about misdirection and taking pressure off the government, because the government could constantly say to critics, we do care, and we're looking for the signals in the sky, and if we find any, we'll tell you.
Right.
So it was essentially a bogus program the day it was created. Not that there aren't some benefits that can come from developing, advancing radio telescopy, but it was a front program and a bit embarrassing. The government took the money away. Not surprisingly, private money immediately came forward. And on SETI goes as this buffer between the people and the government in terms of the government being challenged on much more profound evidence. I mean, the amount of evidence for the ET presence is millions of times greater than the evidence for ET signals.
Mm-hmm.
But not too long ago, Paul Allen pulled the funding for the Allen Array telescopes. He was going to put more money up, and they had to shut it down. Not surprisingly, some people came forward, including Jodie Foster, which one can understand that, and it kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
She put a few $100,000 up, and they used that money, I think, to push their cause. And lo and behold, SETI has just gotten some more government money again. They were getting some NASA money again, but now they got some government money. And of all places, it's coming from the Air Force Space Command.
Interesting.
Not NASA, the Air Force Space Command. This is the group that is involved in the analysis and the engagement of space on the basis of its weapons potential. And so the Space Command did something interesting. I think this was as far as I'm concerned, an excuse to simply put money in SETI to keep it going. They needed an excuse, and they came up with one which is modestly clever, to look for evidence of planets outside of our solar system,
right?
Extrasolar planets. They were finding them, and they've been finding a lot of them, and so they found enough in a particular section of sky that they were specifically surveying, that they were able to extrapolate that to a rough census of the galaxy. And the number that was put out in the initial release that they made was about 50 billion planets out there. I'm sure that number is much bigger than that. But perhaps as many as 500 million planets in the zone, temperature zone around their sun that would allow liquid water to be flowing, which means essentially 500 million potential Earths. So this is notable and interesting. The Space Command gave money to SETI and said, look, we're going to pay you to direct your signal-seeking radio telescopes on these specific planets to see if we can pick up a signal from them. In other words, they got some targets now. Very, very specific there. These are potentially life-supporting planets. Now, the life might be primitive. It could be where the Earth was 100 million years ago, or it could be more advanced. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, why? Why did they do that?
Especially if there's no evidence. Why would they suddenly decide that they're going to look at a couple of planets when the White House is so sure there's no evidence?
Well, there's no evidence. That doesn't mean the White House is saying there's no extraterrestrials. There may be extraterrestrials, but there's no evidence that there are. But
okay.
What the Space Command is saying is, well, we don't have credible evidence yet, so let's go find some. Let's look at signals from some of these planets or star systems that have planets, particularly planets in the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cool, just right. And then if a signal were to develop, well, then they have the option of releasing that to people as a sort of step in for the ET issue, meaning, guess what? Apparently there's extraterrestrials out there. We just picked up some signals. and then wait a dignified amount of time and say, oh, guess what? And it looks like some of them actually traveled here. And wait a dignified amount of time and say, well, guess what? Some of them are kind of interacting with human beings, taking them into craft, doing some work on them, some genetic work, things like that, right? And then some dignified time passes and they have something else. That's possible. But all I can say is, I know, and people should Google this, U.S. Space Command, Air Force Space Command, and SETI, S-E-T-I, and notice that they have done this and ask themselves why. What is going on here? But I can assure you whatever's going on, they're not going to tell us, right? So things are heating up, and 2012 has a good chance to be the year, in my view. Very much a good chance to be the year, and in which case we will have a new world, and I guess the Mayan prophecy will be proven true.
It's going to be an interesting year. I'm guessing on that too.
I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly hope disclosure happens next year. I don't see how it can last past the summer, but boy, we've been waiting a long time, so I guess one should be careful about that. But the international movement is continuing to grow and coalesce, and there will be more pressure on more nations, more releases of documents by other nations, and possibly some very well-known contactees coming forward, which is really going to make the White House position just untenable,
right.
in the 2012, and I think something will give. So that's where we're at, Josh.
Okay.
I invite people to go to disclosurepetition.info,
okay,
disclosurepetition.com, whitehouse.gov, and go to We the People, or use the direct link from the sites I just mentioned. Register if you haven't already. Create an account if you haven't, rather. Then click on the confirmation link. Use the password and username that they sent you. Log in. Sign the disclosure petitions. There too.
Okay.
And spread the word through Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, website links, whatever is available to you, and get people at least aware of it so they can make a decision whether they want to go and sign it as well.
Okay.
And I'm going to do my best. I know Richard Dolan is going to do his best to see if we can salvage the current situation.
Okay.
By getting an extension on the petitions and also possibly maybe motivating an audience to say, look, truth, justice, and freedom are don't come easy. You really have to work for them. Certainly that's been the way in the past.
Right.
And so regardless of what the White House problems are, if enough people press it, they'll get signed, and we'll get those signatures by December 30. There's no reason why we cannot unless they shut the whole site down entirely.
Right.
So we're going to do our best to see if we can do that. In which case, if we succeed, then sometime about mid-January, the White House is going to respond to both of these petitions. I don't think they can lump them together. They may. And I really don't know how. I would not want to be the OSTP person or anybody else in the executive branch that had to respond to these two current positions. It would not be fun.
Right.
Not fun at all. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. This is a political advocacy movement, and as people know, the goal or the role of activists are to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted.
All right. Well, it's good to know that you're out there, with such passion and really working to make this happen, because that's what it takes. Passionate people to make things happen that need to happen.
Well, certainly, it's hard to be an activist on social issues without having some passion.
Right.
It's very hard because there's no money. And so if you don't have a passion for it, there's a real disconnect.
Right.
And I'm glad, but we need nuts and bolts. We need funding. We need the fundamentals that will allow us to convert that passion into results. And there is only one result that matters right now, and that is the formal acknowledgement of the ET presence. Not the release of every file and every secret overnight or anything else. It is simply the acknowledgement. Yes, they are here. So let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. Let's engage it. Whatever. But as long as the government continues to lie, it's not helping anybody. It's all bad. During the Cold War, I understood the reasons for national security basis to withhold this. I understood it. Hard to second guess it. Cold War's been over 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to move on.
Right.
And they do not have that kind of justification anymore. And I think that you can no longer support the truth embargo. It's done. It's toast. It needs to be, it needs to be taken out of the toaster and tossed out the window, really. Let the birds eat it.
Yep.
It's time to get real here. People want real government. They want honest government. They want accountable people. They're really trying to make this message, and it's astounding at how tin air the big shots still have, as the people resoundingly express these desires for truth in government, for accountability, and so forth. I assume that many of them are going to be replaced in 2012. I expect to see a bloodbath amongst the company in 2012. But you never know. A lot can happen in a year and a half.
A lot can happen, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, whatever I can do to help the situation, I'm here. I'll have the links up on the site. I got them right now at the Facebook, and I will encourage everybody to direct them to these petitions and do whatever I can do.
Appreciate it, Gus. Appreciate it. And I'll get back with you.
Okay.
Perhaps if we have some breakthroughs on the petitions later in December, maybe we can do another show toward the end of December.
That sounds good.
All righty.
All right, Stephen. Well, keep up with all the good work out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye. All right, I think it's very...
All right, very good. So that was the interview. And let me show you one more time here. This is the petition. Go to We the People. The full is, got the link at the site. And all you have to do is go down here, create an account. Takes 5 minutes at the most. If you're good at typing, you should be able to get done in about a minute. And then all you have to do is sign the petition. And it signs in automatically with your account information, so you don't have to do a lot of guesswork on what to do. So go sign that petition. It means a big thing. It'll make a difference. All right, last but not least, let us get ready to do our meditation for today. So close your eyes, my friends, and relax. All right, I would like you to imagine it's the beginning of a new week, so let's imagine ourselves on the path, focused towards the end of the week. We have a resting point, a big resting point of a holiday that's celebrated around the world. So between now and then, let us just focus ourselves on moving towards the end of this week smoothly, efficiently, and with integrity. Let's imagine others around the planet doing exactly the same thing, moving to get through their week so they can get to the time where they can enjoy their families and their friends and loved ones. As we're walking along the path, let's make sure all of our chakras are activated, starting with the chakra at the bottom of the spine. The color is red. Raise the energy up to the second chakra, right around the belly button. Orange is the color. From there, raise the energy up to the chakra above it. Imagine the color yellow, just below the rib cage. And then all the way up to the middle of the chest, imagine the color green at the heart chakra. Up to the throat, imagine the color blue at the throat chakra. To the third eye, just between the two eyebrows, imagine the color violet. And finally, to the top of your head, imagine the color indigo. The light continues on into the cosmos as bright white. Imagine your body filled with all of this multicolored light from all of the chakras. See it overflowing, forming this energetic light of protection all around your body. And let's just imagine sending this light of protection out around the whole world. Sending love and protection to everyone. Let's add into the mix love from the heart chakra. Imagine the color green. And let's just send everybody good wishes and good vibes as they prepare for the holiday seasons. We have Christmas. We have Hanukkah. Just imagine everybody walking along the path, sharing love, sending love to each other. All right, let's bring our energy and attention now back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment, filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment, filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment, happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it. That is the end of our show, our prayer, our meditation. Have a good week, my friends, as you're getting ready for the celebrations of the holiday season and the end of this year. Remember to be safe, be smart as you're out there. There's a lot going on in the world. And remember, the sneaky government likes to do things when people are distracted. The holiday seasons are a distraction, so just pay attention out there, my friends. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Till then, be safe. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.